Hey guys, it's Emily, and today we're going to be talking about the books that I want to read before the end of the year. So I have quite a few books that are on my end of year TBR. I want to make sure that I hit all of my goals for 2022, and so I have quite the massive TBR for the months of November and December. They're months that I usually get a lot of reading done anyway, but that being said, my TBR, you'll see, is not that massive. I've selected about 10 to 15 books that I'll be talking about today. I have more books that I'm hoping to read during these last few weeks of the year, but I have some secret TBR plans that I don't know whether they'll happen or not, so I didn't want to put things out in the universe if they weren't going to turn true. And also there's some that I might add on later because I feel like, especially with Christmas books, I have a lot on my radar. There's a lot of ebooks that I want to get to, but today I'll be just showing you some of the physical books that I would really love to read during these next couple of weeks, but that doesn't mean that I won't be doing a little bit of mood reading, especially during the Christmas season. So without further ado, let's dive in. The first book is the Whimsy and Wit book club pick. So this is Lexi's middle grade book club over on Patreon, and the pick for the month of November is Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. So I've read Nevermore before. It was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. It's one of my favorite middle grade series, but when this was selected as the November book club pick, I knew I had to partake and reread the series. I just really love these books. They're so fun, they're so whimsical. Basically, if you're not familiar with it, it follows Morgan Crow, who's cursed to die on her 11th birthday. However, there's this man called Jupiter North that just comes in, sweeps her off her feet, and carries her away to Nevermore, where she'll be entered to become part of the secret society. The next book is coming out next fall, so I think this would be a great time to reread the series, try to get reacclimated with the characters, and just get myself back into this world because I just absolutely love it. I also remember that there were a lot of crucial scenes that were taking place over Christmas in Nevermore and I think Hollowpox. So I think this would be a good transitional book because there's a lot that takes place around different seasons. I remember there was a lot of spooky things happening as well at some point, and I feel like it's just a great transitional book overall, so I'm really excited to be rereading it for the Whimsy and Wit book club. Now let's talk about some Christmas books that I'm hoping to read this season. As I said, I have a lot of plans. Some of them include reading books that I'm not going to talk about in this TBR. I just have a couple of sure values that I know I want to read absolutely this season. The rest is up in the air. So one of those books that I absolutely have to read this year is Midnight in Everwood by M.A. Kuzniar. So I really wanted to read this when it came out last year, but there was a couple of issues with my pre-order. I got my copy very late because of that, and I didn't get a chance to read it around Christmas season. And that being a Nutcracker retelling, I just knew I wanted to read it around Christmas time, and so I saved this book for this year, and I am so incredibly excited to read it. I've heard nothing but incredible things, so I'm sure it's going to be a very enchanting story. The Nutcracker is one of my absolute favorite tales to read around Christmas time, and anything that's Nutcracker inspired I'm in for, so this is one that I am quite excited to read. Another one that I'm adding to my list is The Vanderbeekers of 141st Street. Now I think it was Lexi that recommended this book a few years ago. I don't remember when exactly, but I think it's about a family that lives in New York during Christmas time and they get evicted, I think. All I know is Christmas time, New York City, two of my favorite things, and so I just knew that I wanted to add this one. I feel like it's the beginning of a series too. There's a couple more books after that one, so I really wanted to give this one a try. It's middle grade, and I just love reading middle grade at this time of year. It's such a cozy, comforting genre or just age range for me, so this is something that I'm really hopeful that I'll be able to get to this season. Of course, I had to add a Christmas romance to my list, and so I have A Cross Country Christmas by Courtney Walsh. I don't remember exactly what the plot of this is. I got this as a Christmas gift last year, but I know based on the title and cover that there's a cross-country road trip happening, and it's around Christmas time. All things that I think would be very enjoyable. I mean, look at this beautiful cover. I'm sure it's going to be amazing, and I just wanted to read more romance, so I thought I would add this one to my list. Now, you guys may know that one of my goals for this year is to continue or finish series that I've already started, and so I have a couple of sequels and just books in general that I really want to get to before the end of 2022. The first one of which being Inkspell by Cornelia Funk. So this is the sequel to Inkheart, and I absolutely loved reading Inkheart when I read it at this time of year last year, and so I thought it would be the perfect time to pick up the sequel. This is a pretty chunky beast, but I'm also going to be listening to the audiobook for this one because it is narrated by none other than Brendan Fraser, who also plays Mo, one of the main characters in the first book, and so I feel like this is just going to be the perfect pairing. And yeah, I'm really hopeful that this will give me all of the cozy vibes that I am looking for and that the first one gave me. Another chunky sequel on my list is Long Way Down by Krista and Becca Ritchie. So this is the fourth book in the Calloway Sisters series. It's also the 9th book in the overarching Calloway Sisters and Addicted series, and I think this is officially the ending of the series. I say officially because I know there's another novel that takes place after the events of this one. I think though the last book in the series is considered like an epilogue, so I'm not too sure. Anyway, so I feel like this is going to be a very emotional read because of the events that happened in the previous books. This is going to be following Reich and Daisy, and I'm quite excited. There are a couple that I think grew on me. They're not my favorite, but they are one that I really enjoy reading about, so hopefully this one won't let me down. Another series that I want to continue is the Veronica Speedwell series, and so I have added a Dangerous collaboration by Diana Raybourn to my TBR for the month of November and December. I love the series, and especially with the last book, it just blew my mind. It was a 5 out of 5 stars for me, and so it made me really excited to continue reading the books in that series. And so Dangerous collaboration is book 4. I am quite excited to read it. I cannot wait to see what mystery is going to unfold in this one, and also where Veronica and Stoker's relationship will go from here. I've been told that like things get real in books 4 or 5, if I remember correctly, so I am quite excited. This is one that I will be listening to the audiobook for, though I might also purchase a physical copy. I am also adding Dead Voices by Catherine Arden to my list. This is a sequel to Small Spaces, and I believe this one takes place in Christmas time or like the winter season. Our characters are going off to a ski lodge for a weekend or like a week off or something, you know, or vacation. And I believe it's going to be as spooky as the first one because there are dead voices talking in the ski lodge or like the places they're staying at. So I have a very good feeling about this one because I absolutely loved Small Spaces. It was such a spooky read, a perfect read for the autumn season, and I have a feeling I will really enjoy Dead Voices as well. So I am definitely adding this one to my list. Next up, I have The Arctic Railway Assassin by Sam Setchman and F.G. Leonard. So yes, this was a book that was on my October TBR. No, I didn't get around to it. I did get my copy quite late because it shipped from the UK, and so that means that I got it only a couple of days ago, late October. And when I saw this cover, I was like, oh my god, I need to read it during the winter season. And so I'm keeping it for the months of November, December. Usually here in Quebec we get some snow around this time of year, so I'm hopeful that I'll be able to read this one. So this is book 6 in the Adventures on Train series, and I believe in this one Hal and his uncle are going to be traveling to see the Northern Lights, and there's an assassin involved apparently, so I am quite excited. This is one of my favorite middle grade series, and I always have such a great time reading them. Another sequel on my list is the Treehouse Library by Anna James. This is book 5 in the Pages & Co series, and oh my god, I am so excited. I had no idea this book had come out until I saw my friend Meg talk about it, so this was kind of a late addition to the TBR, but as soon as I found out that it was, I don't know if it's being released in the US yet or if it's gonna be released like first few weeks of November, but it's one that like as soon as it gets out, as soon as I can get my hands on a copy, I will be reading it because usually they're like super cozy, super fun. I don't really know what the plot of this one will entail because like I said, I had no idea it existed until like quite late in the year, but I love the series. It's one of my favorites, and so I'm quite looking forward to reading the new installments. So one of the things that I always forget to do with my TBRs is adding enough romance reads. I feel like I always set these like really fun, like moody and just very seasonal TBRs, but I always forget to add enough romance to them. Like romance is my favorite genre and I always forget to add them to my TBR. So I have decided to make sure that I included at least a couple of romance titles to this month's list. And the first one is Icebreaker by Anna Grace. I think it's a college romance between a figure skater and a hockey player, and it's giving me Fire on Ice vibes, which is why I decided to buy it. Also, this cover is beautiful, and I think I've heard quite great things about this one, and so this is one that I am very much looking forward to reading. I feel like at this time of year, the high skating things are going to be very fun to read about, like very seasonally appropriate, and so I am quite looking forward to reading it. I'm also bringing a new release that I was supposed to read in October but didn't get around to into my November and December TBR, and it is Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong. So this is a new series that is set in the same universe as the These Violent Delights duology, and I think this one is technically like a new adult and it involves fake dating or like a marriage of convenience or something like that, which really here for it. I was supposed to read this in October but didn't get around to it, and so I'm really hopeful that I will be able to read it before the end of the year, they started doing the promo for like the next book in that duology, and it makes me so freaking excited. I need to pick up Foul Lady for 2 now. Another new release that I had to add to my TBR is Two Wrongs Make It Right by Chloe Leese. This one is, I believe, a retelling or like a reimagining of Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare, which is one of my favorite plays that I've read from him so far. I haven't read a lot of Chloe Leese so far. I've only read The Mistletoe Motive, which I absolutely loved, and I have this feeling that if I read more of Chloe Leese's backlist, I will fall in love with her and she might become a new all-time favorite author. So I am really excited to read this one. I think this one comes out at the end of November and I have an arc for it, so I am very much looking forward to reading it. Hopefully this can happen in November. If not, I can read that in December, but it's one that I know I really want to read soon, and so I am quite excited to give this one a try. And the final book on my list is my current read at the moment, and it is Miss Memory Lane by Colton Haynes. So I'm listening to this one on audio and I am loving it so far. It is a memoir from the Teen Wolf and Arrow star. It is quite hard-hitting. I think if you liked I'm Glad My Mom Died, you would probably like the writing style and just the vibe in general of Miss Memory Lane. So that is it for my end of year TBR. I'm so excited to get to reading and to maybe add even more books to my TBR, because I know me, this is probably just the beginning, and usually I get a lot of reading done during the months of November and December, and so I'm quite hopeful that I'll be able to get through the entire list. Let me know what you guys are planning on reading before the end of the year, and I guess that's it, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye!